On Sunday, October 26th at 5:27 p.m., police responded to a call that reported animal abuse at Pure Gold Horse Stables and Equestrian Center in Salem, Ohio. Upon arrival, the deputy that had been dispatched to Pure Gold was shown to the inside of a boarded-up round pen, where they were met with the sight of the remains of 4 almost completely decomposed horses. The boards of the stalls had been chewed through, there was feces everywhere, and there was no food in sight. After this horrifying discovery, all eyes turned to the property owner, Heather Birkmire. Hey guys, if you couldn't already tell from the title and the intro, this is going to be a heavy video. This is your warning that there will be graphic but blurred images and discussions of animal abuse and neglect. Quite a few of you guys left comments asking me to cover this case, and I'll be honest, I went back and forth on it a lot. Not because I didn't want to cover it, but because with this case being so recent, there is so little information available to the public about it, and so much of that information hasn't been verified. I was looking at a bunch of different news sites and reading a bunch of people's, personal accounts and experiences, and there were some things that lined up really well and other things that did not align super well. Like, some of the sources I looked at said that only 2 horses were wearing blankets, but others said that all 4 were, and some people are saying that all 4 deceased horses belong to Heather Birkmire, and other people are saying that only one of them does. There are a few things like that that are just not quite clear what exactly the true facts are. What I've been seeing a lot of on social media is people who just hear something once and then they run with it, whether or not they took the time to double check to see if that was actually true. And I like to make sure that I'm sharing information with you guys that is as accurate as possible, so that's why I kind of went back and forth a little bit on whether or not I should wait to make this video. So it wasn't a matter of whether or not I would make the video, it was a matter of when would I make the video. Would I do it right now, as it's recent, as it has just happened, or would I wait a bit until there's more information? And I decided that I will, I'll make this video, and, I've verified as much information as possible. I've let you guys know that there are a few things that are not quite clear yet. I will link a bunch of sources in the description so you can look at the news, some of the news sites that I was looking at. And if more information becomes public about this case down the road, then we will make a follow-up. So on Sunday, October 26th, a woman named Taylor Robb, who was about to sign a lease on the property of Pure Gold Stables, was cleaning up the property with a couple of friends for an open house that would happen the following week. One of Taylor's friends, Christian Milhone, went to open up a building that had been kind of kept separate. The building was a covered round pen that had actually been boarded and locked up. Former boarders have said that Heather claimed that she used the building as storage and that no one else but her was allowed to enter. Christian opened up the building to go clean inside, but when he did, he was met with the smell of decomposing flesh. He said that there were 3 stalls inside the building, each of which had a dead and decomposing horse inside. And when he inspected the building further, he found a 4th set of remains that had been shoved in a corner and had dirt on it, almost as if someone had been attempting to bury it. Photos confirm that many of the boards in the stalls had not only been chewed on, but had been chewed through. Christian believes that this was done in an attempt to gain sustenance to survive, while others believe that the horses were trying to chew their way out to escape. Now, I have seen some people online trying to claim that this is normal behavior and that all horses just chew on the walls and doors of their stall, and I need to make it really clear that is not normal equine behavior. We see it happen a lot because of modern management practices, but it happens because our management is subpar. Wood chewing is not a normal behavior for horses, meaning that it's not something that they just do. Like, it's not a thing that all horses just do. Wood chewing typically occurs in horses for 2 reasons. One, they're bored or stressed in their stall, either because they're in their stall for too long, or they're isolated from other horses, or they don't have enough food, or 2, their diet is actually lacking in fiber and they're trying to supplement it. I think both reasons are very possible here, as well as trying to find something to eat. Also, wood chewing is different from cribbing. You will not see this kind of damage from cribbing alone. If you want to learn more about cribbing or wood chewing stereotypic behaviors, I have a whole video on it. linked up here, linked in the description. But this kind of wood chewing is in no way, shape, or form a normal behavior. The police were called, and the Columbiana County Sheriff's Department dispatched a deputy to Pure Gold Stables at 5:27 p.m. to investigate. Upon arrival, Taylor told the deputy that they had discovered 4 sets of skeletal remains belonging to horses that she believed had been locked in and starved to death. According to the police report, Taylor was also accompanied by 2 vets and a 3rd individual. My guess is that 3rd individual is Christian, but I'm not sure. When shown the inside of the building, the deputy saw the boards that had been chewed on, buckets that only had remnants of straw in them, and 4 sets of remains that were almost completely decomposed, with only a few patches of skin left. All 4 sets of remains appeared to have winter blankets on, which suggests that the horses could have been dead since last winter. Though I will note that sometimes in cases of neglect and abuse, people will put blankets onto horses to hide their poor body condition, but I don't think that's very likely in this scenario, because if they were in a boarded up barn that no one else had access to, then she wouldn't need to hide their body condition in that way, but I think it's just something that is worth noting. The deputy was also then told that there were 7 other horses on the property that were in poor body condition when Taylor came to the property, and that she had been taking care of them. On the following Monday, a deputy returned to Pure Gold Stables to aid the local Humane Society in a follow-up investigation. Now this is where we meet the most frustrating person in this whole situation, Heather Birkmire, the property owner who has had several complaints filed against her by employees for not adequately feeding or caring for the horses on site. Not only that, but people have been speaking out against her for years, warning others not to take their horses to Pure Gold or to Heather because their horses were dropping weight and even colicking due to the inadequate and infrequent feedings. Heather was very odd through this entire follow-up. She claimed that she had no knowledge of there being dead horses on the property, no knowledge of these horses, but she was the only one who had access to the building where they were found. She granted the Humane Society representatives and the deputy access to the property and said they could go into the building where the horses were found, but she was going to need keys from a property down the road, which I believe is her other property, because from what I've heard, she owned Pure Gold, bought another property down the road, and has now been leasing out Pure Golds with the intention to sell it. So she goes to this other property down the road to get the keys, but she doesn't come back until the deputy calls her and she says she can't find the keys, but she can show them every other building on the property so that they can see that all of the other horses are being well cared for. Then the deputy realized that the padlock was not actually locking anything. It was just on a chain that was hooked onto the gate to keep it closed, but it wasn't actually keeping anything locked. So the deputy asked for permission to remove it, and Heather said yes. Heather then said that she believes that all of the horses died around the same time and were poisoned by a former employee that had a problem with her, but she didn't say who or why or when it happened. Also, Heather, you said you didn't even know there were dead horses on the property, and now all of a sudden you think you know when and how they died and who did it? That feels weird to me. Obviously, no one has been charged, no one has been arrested, everyone is innocent until proven guilty, and I am not accusing anyone here. But I am going to point out holes in someone's story, and I will point out when they have previous complaints filed against them that make them look a little bit suspicious. Now, here's the thing I'm not really sure anyone wants to hear because I've not heard anyone say it. We really don't know much for sure, and we don't know much at all. Pretty much everybody has been saying that these horses starved to death, and that is a very real possibility, but that hasn't actually been confirmed 100% yet. And with how decomposed they are, I'm not even sure that's something that can be determined with full certainty, but I'm not a vet, so I don't really know. They very well could have died of starvation. Did they all die of starvation? Maybe. Did they all die around the same time because they were poisoned by an employee? Maybe. I kind of doubt it because I feel like if that were the case and Heather was aware of it or even suspected it, I think she probably would have taken legal action. So I don't think that's very likely here. But regardless, we don't actually know for sure. Veterinarians are working right now to determine a timeline for the horses' deaths and to determine how they died. Starvation is very likely, and honestly, that is what I think happened, but I'm not going to come out and say these horses starved to death when we don't actually know that for sure. It's just something that is believed to have happened and is likely to have happened, but somebody said it, and now everyone is going around saying these horses starved to death, which again, very well could have happened. I'm not denying that that is a very strong possibility, and personally, I believe that is what happened. But I do think it's important in situations like this not to say this is exactly what happened when we don't actually have the facts or the medical reports to back that up yet. Regardless, I believe that these deaths were not the result of natural causes. I believe that someone killed these horses, and I believe that attempts were made to cover it up. And regardless of whether or not Heather Birkmire is the one who is responsible for their deaths, she is the one that boarded up and tried to lock up the building and prevented all of her boarders and staff from entering. So at the very least, she had a hand in covering it up. And if she is responsible, whether or not she did it intentionally or she just didn't care enough to feed them enough, she needs to be held accountable. I will not say that she's the one that did this because no charges have been filed, but at this time, police do consider her a suspect. And I think that all of my beautiful critical thinkers, you can draw your own conclusions as to what you think happened based off of the facts. I think a lot of the evidence speaks for itself, but that's about as much as I can say while protecting myself legally. That is everything that I have been able to find on this case that I have been able to verify at least somewhat. The most frustrating thing I couldn't figure out with certainty was who all of the horses belonged to. I have heard varying stories on this. I've heard some people say that they all belonged to boarders. I've heard some people say that they all belonged to Heather Birkmire, and I've heard people say that one of them apparently has been confirmed as hers, was a horse that she purchased off of the racetrack last year, and I believe is microchipped, and that's how they determined, that the horse was hers. But I haven't read anything that can definitively tell me who the horses belonged to, because I'm sure it's hard to identify them in this state. But regardless, these were helpless horses that were boarded up into a barn and left to die. Horses rely on us for everything. They trust us. They trust that we, as their humans, will take care of them and provide them with everything that they need because they have to. They don't have any other choice but to trust that. This was a complete abuse of that trust. That trust was broken, and these horses likely died scared and alone. Animal protection laws in most places, Ohio included, are severely lacking, and individuals who break those laws or harm animals rarely see any legal consequences, and when they do, they're a joke. It's a slap on the wrist. It's nothing. If we don't speak up about these situations and make the public aware how lacking these laws are, they'll never get any better.